Hey everyone, and welcome.
Today we're jumping headfirst into one of the most important, and honestly, one of the most controversial pieces of patent law anywhere in the world, India's patent gatekeeper.
So, let's just get right to the heart of it, with a huge question. What if you had to choose between making a life-saving cancer drug affordable for millions of people right now, or protecting the system that promises to invent the cures of tomorrow? Well, this isn't some classroom debate. It's the real-world tightrope that India is walking every single day because of its unique patent law.
You see, when we're talking about who gets access to medicine, the conversation quickly moves from the lab to the courtroom. A decision made by a patent clerk can literally carry the same life or death weight as the decision made by a surgeon. And right at the center of this massive legal fight is one single, incredibly powerful section of a law.
And this gets us to the fundamental idea behind India's law. It's really set up to be this high-stakes balancing act, trying to achieve two very different and often completely opposite goals.
So, on the one hand, the law has to encourage real game-changing innovation by giving inventors a patent. That's their reward. But on the other hand, it has a duty to prevent public harm, to stop companies from getting monopolies on tiny, insignificant tweaks or on things that really should belong to everyone. It's this constant tug of war between private reward and public good.
So how in the world does India actually pull off this balancing act? Well, let's meet the gatekeeper itself, Section 3 of the Indian Patents Act. This is the specific part of the rulebook that spells out what is not considered an invention, and therefore what you absolutely cannot get a patent for.
And one of the biggest corporate strategies that Section 3 is designed to shut down is a practice called evergreening.
Okay, so what is evergreening? It's when a company takes a drug, one whose patent is about to expire, and they make a very small change to it. Maybe they turn it into a slightly different salt or crystal form, and then they try to get a brand new 20-year patent on it. And what this does is it blocks cheaper, generic versions from ever hitting the market, keeping prices sky high, often without providing any real new benefit to patients.
So how does India stop this? This is where it gets really clever. A part of the law called Clause 3D puts up what's known as an efficacy wall. It basically says you can't get a new patent on a new form of a drug that's already known unless you can prove it has enhanced therapeutic efficacy. Now, in plain English, that means your new version of the drug has to actually work better for the patient. It's not enough for it to just be different, it has to be medically superior.
And believe me, Section 3's reach goes way beyond just pills. It blocks patents on things like discovering a scientific principle, on basic farming techniques, and even on surgical procedures, which ensures doctors are always free to treat their patients in the best way possible. It also prevents patents on plants, animals, and this is a big one, traditional knowledge.
And this story about turmeric is the perfect example. Back in the 90s, a US patent was actually granted for using turmeric to heal wounds. Well, India fought back and got it overturned. Their argument? This isn't some new invention. This is knowledge that has been a core part of Indian culture for centuries. They called it biopiracy, and Section 3 is the legal shield designed to make sure that never happens again.
Now, as you can imagine, this uniquely protective approach puts India in a very different position from much of the rest of the world. So let's take a look at how different it really is.
Okay, so most of the world operates under a global agreement called TRIPS. Think of TRIPS as setting the floor. It's the minimum level of patent protection a country has to offer. But India, using the flexibility in that same agreement, has built a ceiling. It sets maximum limits on what can be patented, all to protect the public. So while the US or Europe might grant a patent for a minor drug tweak, India's Section 3 says, nope, not going to happen unless you can prove it's a real improvement.
And this fundamental difference in philosophy, well, it creates a constant, high-stakes battleground with two incredibly powerful and totally opposing arguments.
So which is it? Is this law an innovation chiller that's just destroying the economic model for creating new drugs? Or is it a global hero, making sure that life-saving medicine gets to the people who need it most? Honestly, the answer you get depends entirely on who you ask.
From the industry side, the perspective is pretty straightforward. Big pharma companies argue that Section 3, especially that super high bar set by Clause 3D, just makes it too risky for them to invest in launching new drugs in India. They say it kills the financial incentive that's needed to fund the billions of dollars that go into research and development.
But public health advocates, they see this in a completely different light. They praise Section 3 as this landmark law that has saved countless lives.
By stopping evergreening, it lets generic competition boom, and that is precisely why India is called the pharmacy of the global south. It supplies affordable drugs for HIV, cancer, and hepatitis all across the developing world.
But here's the thing, it's not a blanket ban. When you actually look at how the law works in the real world, it's more like a filter. For instance, patents for new forms of some diabetes and HIV drugs got rejected because the companies just couldn't prove they were medically any better. But patents for things like new nanoformulations or innovative drug delivery systems, those were granted because they could show convincing proof of enhanced efficacy. So yeah, the gatekeeper is tough, but the gate isn't completely shut.
So, where does this all go from here? Well, this 20th century law is about to face a massive wave of 21st century challenges that are going to test it like never before.
Just think about these questions. Is a crop edited with CRISPR a plant that can't be patented? Is an AI that can diagnose cancer a patentable device, or is it an unpatentable method of treatment? And maybe the biggest threat of all, will constant pressure from international trade deals eventually force India to water down these protections? These are the huge questions that are going to define this fight for the next decade.
And all of this brings us right back to that core challenge, what we can call the balancing paradox. On one side, you have the push for economic growth, which says you need stronger patent rights to attract R&D investment. And on the other, you have the demand for social justice, which says that life-saving technology has to be accessible for everybody.
So that leaves us with the ultimate question, right? Can India find a way to become a global hub of innovation while still holding on to this unique, powerful, and very controversial legal shield? There is no easy answer here. It forces a choice between the potential innovations of tomorrow and the very real lives that need saving today. So what do you think is the right call?